The flashing lights of the patrol car threw frantic strobing patterns of red and blue across the walls of our living room. A chaotic disco ball announcing the utter failure of our mission's primary objective, to be utterly and completely boring. I glanced at the monitor displaying the feed from the discreet camera hidden in our porch light. 2 local sheriff's deputies were walking up our driveway, their expressions a mixture of annoyance and caution. Behind them, standing on the perfect manicured lawn just beyond our property line, was Mrs. Covington, president of the Liberty Crossing Homeowners Association. Her arms were crossed, and she wore a look of supreme, unassailable vindication. She had finally cornered us. "Local PD is at the door," I said in a low, even voice. The 3 other people in the room, my family, moved with a silent, practiced efficiency that would have terrified our neighbors had they been able to see it. Our living room, with its comfortable sofa, its tasteful throw pillows, and its gallery wall of smiling family photos, was a carefully constructed lie. It was a stage. Behind the curtain, it was a fully operational, state-of-the-art tactical operations center. "Leo, kill the main monitor feed. Switch to passive surveillance mode, and wipe the session logs." My wife Alina commanded quietly. Our 19-year-old son Leo, a young man with a mop of unruly blonde hair and the fastest fingers I'd ever seen on a keyboard, nodded. The massive 8-inch television on the wall, which moments before had been displaying a live, encrypted satellite feed of a house 3 streets over, flickered and switched to a generic screensaver of a mountain landscape. "Maya, you're on dishes," I said. Our 17-year-old daughter Maya, a girl with eyes that missed nothing, was already up, gathering our coffee mugs and heading to the kitchen. Her movements were fluid and silent, a ghost in her own home. "Alina, you answer the door." "Plausible deniability," I continued, running the protocol. "I'll handle the conversation. Everyone, remember who you are. We are the Miller family. I am a mid-level software consultant who works from home. Alina's a freelance graphic designer. Leo and Maya are college students taking online classes. We are quiet. We are new here. We are very, very confused about why the police are on our doorstep. Go." This was the life we had chosen, the one we had trained for. For the past 6 months, we had not been the Millers. We were a specialized deep-cover team for the U.S. Marshals Special Operations Group. Our mission, codenamed Operation Silent Harbor, was to conduct long-term close proximity surveillance on a man named Julian Croft, a seemingly legitimate tech CEO who the federal government had credible intelligence was acting as a high-level broker, selling stolen corporate and military technology to foreign powers. His house, a modern fortress of glass and steel, was 3 streets over in the heart of this obsessively regulated upper-class suburban paradise. Our job was to be the perfectly average, slightly boring family next door, gathering the final, irrefutable evidence needed to bring him down. The greatest, most unpredictable threat to our multi-million-dollar federal operation had not been Croft's own sophisticated counter-surveillance, but the relentless, microscopic scrutiny of Mrs. Covington and her homeowners association. From the moment we moved in, she had viewed us with a deep and abiding suspicion. We were a black box in her perfectly transparent community. We were too quiet. We didn't participate in the mandatory weekend block parties, a cardinal sin in Liberty Crossing. We politely declined invitations to her neighborhood watch meetings. We kept to ourselves. In her mind, our desire for privacy was not a personal preference. It was a criminal enterprise. Her campaign of harassment had been a war of 1,000 paper cuts. The first official fine had been for failing to attend the annual HOA summer barbecue. We couldn't go, of course, to be photographed to have our faces uploaded to the community's social media page was an unacceptable risk to our operational security. Ignoring the fine had been a direct order from our handler at the U.S. Attorney's Office. Then came a fine for our trash cans, which we had allegedly left out 10 minutes past the 6 p.m. deadline on a Tuesday. The truth was, we had been in the middle of a critical moment of surveillance. A handoff between Croft and an unknown contact. And the trash cans had been the last thing on our minds. The final decisive battle had been over a birdhouse. To the casual observer, It was a simple, tasteful cedar birdhouse mounted on a tree in our backyard. To us, it was a highly sophisticated solar-powered surveillance unit, containing a long-range directional microphone and a high-definition infrared camera, all aimed directly at the back patio of Julian Croft's residence. It was a piece of federal evidence. To Mrs. Covington, who had spotted it during one of her daily perimeter walks with a pair of powerful binoculars, it was an unapproved architectural modification. The official notice of violation had arrived last week. A fine of $500 for the unauthorized installation of a non-compliant aviary structure. We had, of course, ignored it. We had ignored the second, more threatening notice as well. For Mrs. Covington, our silence was an admission of guilt. She had clearly decided that our strange, reclusive behavior, combined with what she believed was a hidden spy camera, was proof that we were the criminals, not the quiet, respectable CEO 3 streets over. She had called the police, not to report a simple bylaw violation, but to report a suspicious family, possibly engaged in illegal surveillance. Demanding that they investigate us, Alina opened the front door, a look of polite, neighborly concern on her face. "Good evening, officers. Is everything all right?" The 2 deputies were young, their faces etched with the awkwardness of the situation. "Good evening, ma'am," the senior one began. "I'm Deputy Finch. We received a call from your neighbor, Miss Covington, about a disturbance." "A disturbance?" Alina asked, her voice a perfect symphony of confusion. "But it's been completely quiet here all evening," Mrs. Covington pushed forward from behind them, her face a mask of righteous fury. "Don't play dumb with me. You know exactly what this is about. Officers, this family has been sent 3 separate notices and thousands of dollars in fines for their violations, and they have refused to comply. I believe they are engaged in illegal activities. That birdhouse in their backyard is a spy camera. I'm sure of it. They are a threat to this entire community." The deputies looked deeply uncomfortable. "Ma'am," Deputy Finch said too, "Mrs. Covington, HOA fines are a civil matter. Can't enforce them." He then turned back to us. However, the call did mention suspicious activity and a potential illegal surveillance device. Given the nature of the complaint, we're going to need to see some identification from everyone currently in the house. This was the moment we had drilled for, the protocol for a direct, unavoidable interaction with local law enforcement. We had to maintain our cover if possible, but the mission's integrity was paramount. I stepped forward, putting on my best, harried but cooperative suburban dad face. "Of course, officer," I said with a weary sigh. "This is all a ridiculous misunderstanding with our overzealous HOA president. Please, come in. Kids, get your driver's licenses for the Officers. The 2 deputies stepped inside, their eyes scanning our perfectly normal, perfectly staged living room. Maya was now diligently wiping down the kitchen counter, and Leo was sitting at the dining room table, a history textbook open before him, a look of bored teenage annoyance on his face. Everything was perfect. We were the Millers. Completely normal, completely boring family. But I knew, with a sinking feeling, that the fragile piece of our cover story was about to be tested to its absolute limit. The 2 deputies stood in our entryway, their presence filling the small space, their radios crackling with the mundane chatter of a quiet suburban night. The air was thick with a tense, awkward silence. Mrs. Covington hovered in the open doorway. Behind them, a vulture waiting to pick at the carcass of our privacy, her face a mask of smug anticipation. "All right, folks," Deputy Finch said, pulling out a small notepad. "Let's just get this sorted out. ID for everyone, please, starting with you, sir." I nodded and handed him my driver's license. Lena did the same. Leo and Maya, playing their roles perfectly, shuffled over from their tasks and presented their own licenses. The deputies took them, their eyes moving back and forth from the photos to our faces. To them, we were just the Millers. Mark, Alina, Leo. A family of 4 with clean records and a valid address. Deputy Finch handed the licenses to his partner. "Run them," he said quietly, as the younger deputy walked back to the patrol car. "Mrs. Covington, unable to contain her impatience, pushed her way into the house. "This is a waste of time," she declared. "Their IDs will be clean. They're professionals. You need to search the house. You need to find the spy equipment, the illegal computers. It's in the back, in that birdhouse. I demand you investigate, Deputy." Finch turned to her, a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. "Ma'am, I do not have a warrant, and I do not have probable cause to search this family's home. A bylaw dispute over a birdhouse doesn't meet that standard. But they're suspicious," she insisted, her voice rising. "They are a threat to this community. You have to do something." It was at that moment that the younger deputy returned from the car, a strange, confused look on his face. He held our licenses in his hand. "Sarge," he said to his partner, his voice a low whisper, "there's a flag." "What kind of flag?" Finch asked. "A federal marker?" "It's on all four of them. It just says federal employee. Do not detain or question without direct supervisor consult. Contact U.S. Marshals Service, Northern District, for verification." What does that even mean? This was it. The first crack in our cover, the moment the local, mundane world collided with our hidden, far more dangerous one. Deputy Finch's entire demeanor shifted. The bored, slightly annoyed suburban cop was gone, replaced by a cautious, serious professional who had just stumbled into a situation he didn't understand. "It means," Lena said, her voice suddenly changing, losing its friendly soccer mom tone, and gaining a cold, hard, professional edge that made even me stand up a little straighter, "that it's time we cleared this up. Deputy, I think it would be wise for you to call your sergeant." Before he could respond, his own radio crackled to life. "Finch, this is Sergeant Davies. What the hell is going on over there? I just got a call on my personal cell from the U.S. Marshals Regional Field Office in Atlanta. They want to know why 2 of my deputies are running the plates of a federal surveillance vehicle and detaining their undercover agents. Talk to me now." The color drained from both deputies' faces. They stared at us, their eyes wide with a mixture of awe and sheer unadulterated terror. They were not just questioning a family with a weird HOA problem. They were standing in the middle of an active and apparently very serious federal operation. "They're not the Millers," the younger deputy whispered, a statement of profound, horrified revelation. "No," I said, finally dropping the act. "We're not." One by one, we reached into our pockets and produced our real identification, not driver's licenses. We presented our official credentials. The leather bifolds containing the golden star of the United States Marshals Service, Mrs. Covington stared, her mouth agape, her carefully constructed narrative crumbling into dust around her. "What? What is that? It's a fake. This is a trick." The final, definitive answer came not from us, but from the county sheriff himself, who had clearly been called by a very angry Sergeant Davies. His unmarked sedan came roaring up the street and screeched to a halt behind the patrol car. Sheriff Miller, a man I had briefed personally when we first set up this operation, stormed into the house, his face a mask of cold, controlled fury. He didn't even look at his deputies. His eyes locked on a knout-rembling Mrs. Covington. "Ma'am," he began, his voice dangerously quiet, "do you have any idea what you have done tonight?" "I was just reporting a suspicious," she started to stammer. "You have spent the last 6 months," the sheriff cut her off, his voice like rolling thunder, "harassing a team of federal agents who are engaged in a long-term, classified, national security operation. Your petty, obsessive complaints about their trash cans and their barbecue attendants have been a constant, documented nuisance. But tonight you have filed a false 911 report and have sent my deputies into the middle of an active surveillance operation. It's compromising their cover and potentially jeopardizing the entire investigation. You have, through your own breathtaking arrogance and stupidity, interfered with the work of the United States Marshals Service." Mrs. Covington's face had gone from pale to a ghostly, translucent white. She looked as if she were about to faint. "This is no longer a civil matter of HOA fines," the sheriff continued, his voice relentless. "You are now under investigation by my office, the FBI, and the U.S. Attorney for felony obstruction of justice. I would advise you to get a very, very good lawyer. Now get off this property." She didn't need to be told twice. She turned and practically fled, a pathetic, defeated figure disappearing into the night. The sheriff turned to his two mortified deputies. "You two," he growled. "My office? 600, and you'd better bring a notepad." He then looked at us, his expression softening. "Marcolina, I am so sorry. This was a catastrophic failure of local intelligence. Is the operation compromised?" I looked over at Leo, who was already back at his keyboard, his eyes scanning the data feeds. "Negative, Sheriff," Leo said, without turning around. "Target remains unaware. His own security systems are still focused on the commotion out front. We're clear." The sheriff nodded, a look of deep respect on his face. He and his deputies left, and the house was quiet again. The flashing lights were gone. The chaos had receded. The four of us stood in the living room, the mission's veneer of suburban normality shattered. We were not the Millers. We were team. A team that had just weathered a bizarre, unexpected storm. The absurdity of it all hit me then. We were prepared for assassins, for counter-surveillance, for armed confrontation. But we had never truly been prepared for the sheer, indomitable, and ultimately self-destructive power of a neighborhood Karen. Leo pointed to a monitor. "Heads up," he said, his voice all business again. "Target is on the move." And just like that, we were back to work. The petty tyrant of Liberty Crossing already fading from our minds as we refocused on the real, dangerous world we inhabited.